And we're back again with more evidence for why Noah's flood never happened. So, one of the favorite arguments, in my personal opinion, is probably what we call the genetic bottleneck. And that is this concept that if you shrink a population of any animal species, whether it's humans or elephants or tigers, down to a very limited number of breeding pairs, you end up with a lot of inbreeding. So essentially, you think of the problems that royal families had when they would only marry each other's first cousins or even immediate family to maintain property ownership, essentially. So the king and queen would have a son, and they're like, we're going to marry someone that we trust. We're going to have our kids marry someone that we trust, so that we're not going to lose control of the estates and the property, whatever. But what that leads to is all these recessive genes start to become dominant genes, and you end up with the Habsburg jaw issues and hemophilia and all these genetic disorders that come from inbreeding. Well, that actually leaves a genetic marker in the DNA that can be picked up later. So, for example, the modern cheetah is severely inbred. Like virtually every cheetah you're ever going to find can take a skin graft from any other cheetah because they're so closely related, and they struggle to maintain the population, and they're very endangered even today from this inbreeding event and a population bottleneck that occurred perhaps centuries ago. And so the issue becomes, if the flood happened and if we had dozens and dozens of, well, dozens, thousands of animal species, if not millions, that were all reduced to either 7 breeding pairs or 2 breeding pairs, depending if they were clean or unclean and all that stuff, then every animal species on Earth would show this history of genetic bottleneck in their markers, in their DNA. So, given that we have actually a very limited number of animal species that show that kind of inbreeding, that kind of blows that theory out of the water, especially humans, because if we think about it, it was only Noah and his wife, and it was either 3 son-daughter pairs or 4 son and daughter pairs. Can't remember exactly how the story went, but Noah and his wife didn't have any more kids after they left the ark, as far as the scripture records. So humans only had 4 breeding pairs total to start off the human race again. And so we're the young earth creationist mentality is that somehow 4 human couples produced all these different societies and cultures across the planet in 4,000 years, which is absurdly stupid. Like there's nothing I can say to convey how dumb that is. It's just impossible. So, especially when we consider famine and war and disease and all these other factors that reduce the population, and we also consider languages and these deep histories and cultures that have naturally developed over many thousands of years, we have human cultures that are still alive today, such as the Aboriginal tribes in Western Australia. I believe we can demonstrate conclusively that they lived in that section of the planet for 40,000 years. Now, that's just one group of people. Obviously, we have the Incas, we have the Chinese people have histories going back well before the flood allegedly happened. The Egyptians have very good historical documentation, and they trace their lineages back to well before the flood ever happened. So anthropology, the study of human societies and cultures, shows us that there's just simply no way that the flood could have occurred. Genetic studying, the study of DNA, shows us that the flood could not have ever occurred. So stay tuned. We're going to have some more coming your way.